Our lecture today is continuation to the introduction of the nerve physiology. Objectives: we are going to describe the locations and functions of different types of supporting cells, describe the sheath of Schwann and the functions, its function in the regeneration of the cut peripheral nerve fiber, and define the types and functions of the neurotrophins. Supporting cells. There are 6 categories of supporting cells. الآن راح نتكلم عن supporting cells الموجودة بالperipheral nervous system اللي هي الشوان cells which form the myelin sheath and myelin sheath that surrounded the peripheral axons, and the satellite cells or the ganglionic gliocytes which support the neuron cells bodies within the ganglia of in the peripheral nervous system. طبعا هذه النوعين من الخلايا شوان cells والsatellite cells موجودة. It is a supporting cells presented in the peripheral nervous system. الموجودة بالcentral nervous system عندنا oligodendrocytes which form the myelin sheaths around the axons of central nervous system. أو الموجودة بالcentral nervous system عندنا المايكروغليا اللي هي الphagocytic cells that presented in the central nervous system and responsible to phagocytize the foreign bodies, the debris, unwanted materials. عندنا الastrocytes which help to regulate the external environment of the neurons in the central nervous system. عندنا ependymal cells which line the cavities of the brain and the cranial central canal of the spinal cord. The neuroglia support, protect, connect and remove the debris from the nervous system. عادة البريفرال أو supporting cells موجودة عندنا قسم موجود بالcentral nervous system موجودة بالperipheral nervous system، وهنا بعض الصور اللي توضح لنا أشكال هذه الخلايا. طبعا هذه صورة توضح النيورون بالبريكاريون والدندرايتس والأكزون. Now, all the axons in the peripheral nervous system are surrounded by a living sheath of Schwann cells. We call it sheath of Schwann. The outer surface of this layer of Schwann cells is enveloped by a glycoprotein basement membrane. We call it the neurolemma. The axons in the central nervous system lack the sheath of Schwann and lack the continuous basement membrane that is responsible, or it is very important in the regeneration of cut axon بالperipheral nervous system. Some axons in the peripheral nervous system and in the central nervous system are surrounded by myelin sheath. In the peripheral nervous system, the insulating covering is أو the myelin sheath اللي هو insulating covering is formed by a successive wrapping of the Schwann cells membrane of that surround the axon, and in the central nervous system the myelin sheath formed from the oligodendrocytes. عادة الشوان cells اللي يسوي لي sheath of Schwann اللي تغلف أو تحيط بالأكزونز الموجودة بالperipheral nervous system هي المسؤولة عن عمل المايلين شيث بالperipheral nervous system، بينما بالcentral nervous system ما عندي sheath of Schwann ولا عندي نيوروليما. منو يسويني المايلين شيث؟ اللي يسوي لي إياها هي الأوليغودندروسايتس. Those axons smaller أما عندنا axons smaller than 2 micrometer أو قسم تكون قسم الأكزون تكون أطول من حد متر أو أكثر، بس المتعارف عليه إنه الأكزونز تكون smaller than 2 micrometer are usually unmyelinated، بينما اللي تكون larger than this size عادة تكون more likely to be myelinated. عادة the small axons it is usually unmyelinated، بينما larger axons تكون more are likely to be myelinated. Each Schwann cell wrap only about a millimeter of axon, leaving a gaps of exposed axon between the adjacent Schwann cells. These gaps in the myelin sheath, we call it the node of Ranviers. Now, Regeneration of cut axon. When an axon in the peripheral nervous system is cut, the distal portion of the axon that was served from the cell body away from the cell body degenerated and it is phagocytized by a Schwann cell. فإذا عادة Schwann cells لها عمل آخر بالإضافة إلى كونها تسوي لي شيث أوف شوان وتسوي لي المايلين شيث اللي هو يعني يحيط بالأكزونز الموجودة بالبريفرال سيستم ويكون ما بين one مايلين شيث وآخر أكو يعني مكان exposed ما بي مايلين شيث أسميه نود أوف رامبير. فعادة الشوان سيلز بالإضافة إلى تسوي لي شيث أوف شوان وتسوي لي المايلين شيث بالبريفرال سيستم أيضا phagocytized the يعني the part of يعني cut from the cut axon, part of cut axon that away from the pericardium. The Schwann cells surrounded by a basement membrane بنسميه neurolema then form a regeneration tube as the part of the axon that is connected to the cell body and begins to grow and exhibit amboid movement, and then the Schwann cells of the regeneration tube secrete chemicals that attract the growing axon tip, and the regeneration tube help to guide the regenerating axon to the proper destination. Injury in the central nervous system stimulate the growth of the axonal collaterals, but the central axons have much more limited ability to regenerate. Therefore, this is because the axon in the central nervous system lack the basement membrane أو ما يسمى بالنيوروليميا اللي هو الجلايكوبروتين membrane that is very important to produce the regeneration tube. Now, we talk about the neutrophins اللي هي عبارة عن chemicals presented in developing fetal brain, and also they found that these chemicals also presented in the brain of the adult. We have 5 types of the neutrophins: a nerve growth factor, وعندنا brain derived neurotrophic factor, وعندنا glial derived neurotrophic factor, وعندنا neurotrophin 3 وعندنا neurotrophin 4 5. طبعا neutrophins also play very important roles or very important functions in the adult nervous system. For example, عندنا nerve growth factor is required for the maintenance of the sympathetic ganglia, required for the mature sensory neuron to regenerate after injury. Glial derived neurotrophin factor may be needed in the adult to maintain the spinal motor neurons. Now, summary for our lecture: and the neuroglia support, protect, connect and remove the debris from the nervous system. All the axons in the peripheral nervous system are surrounded by a living sheath of Schwann, and this Schwann cells responsible to, or usually it is engaged by glycoprotein basement membrane, we call it the neurolema. The axons in the central nervous system lack the sheath of Schwann and lack the neurolema, and this is the neurolema is significant to important or play very important role for the regeneration of the axon of the cut axon. Some axons in the peripheral nervous system and in the central nervous system surrounded by myelin sheath. When the axon in the peripheral nervous system cut, the distal portion of the axon going to that's served away from the cell body regenerated and going to be the axon our cut axon that away from the cell body going to be degenerates and going to be phagocytized by the Schwann cells, and the Schwann cells going to form together with the neurolema play very important role in the formation of regenerating a tube. The Schwann cells surrounded by the basement membrane then form a regenerating tube as a part of axon that is connected the cell body and connected to the cell body and begins to grow and exhibit amboid movement, and it is important to guide the original axon to the new destiny. In developing fetal brain we have chemicals we call it the neutrophins, وطبعا النيوتروفينز مو بس موجودة بالفيتس أيضا موجودة أو play important role in the set of the system of the adult. Now we have some questions about our lecture today, and thank you.